home on the range, and they were roaming through the Yellowstone National Park freely, attacking dumb tourists who were trying to take pictures of them up close. The great Pete Weber in Buffalo, and now the voice of the, not just now, Harry, since 1998,
right,
the voice of your Nashville Predators. Pete, great to see you, brother.
Great to see you, Tony. I miss the old days. We'd sit at the Saturday and Sunday nights and get the scores from the New York Penn League, and you were aghast that I knew the names of the division winners there, the Vince McNamara division, the Dick Stedler division, all of that stuff. That was so much fun.
Wow. New York Penn League, Harry. Do you remember the New York Penn League?
Yeah, sure I do.
It's great stuff. Do you remember the Buffalo Bison when they were born? This is the man, Pete Weber, who helped bring baseball back to Buffalo. He wasn't there in 1915, the last time they had a team there. Pete, we were talking earlier in the day when we were talking about the last time there was a Major League Baseball game in Buffalo, New York. When was it?
September 8th, 1915. The Federal League, the Buffalo Blues, and everybody remembers, and I think, Tony, didn't you have a cap from the Baltimore Terrapins?
Absolutely, I did. Not the Maryland Terrapins, the Baltimore Terrapins, before they became the Baltimore Blue Claws and the Rock City, whatever the hell they're called.
Now, Pete, was that game back at that old War Memorial Stadium that ended up being the Bills' home field, and The Natural was filmed there?
The Natural, in my backyard here, I have two seats from the old War Memorial Stadium, where The Natural was filmed in 1983, but the Federal League games were played in a Federal League park. They weren't even in the old Offerman Stadium. So there were, I think, 5 ballparks in Buffalo's history, and the one that opened on Pete Rose's 47th birthday in 1988 is the one that's going to be hosting the Toronto Blue Jays now.
Pete Weber, a legendary figure in broadcasting here. I mean, he's not even from Buffalo, but he went to Buffalo. Remember, Al Meltzer was there. David Boreanaz' dad, Dave Roberts, was a Buffalo guy. Right? And so Pete's history with Buffalo, and I'm proud to say that I know him and I work with him, but he was the guy who did the first play-by-play for the Buffalo Bison back in the day, right, Pete?
Yeah, got it started in 88 when they came back with the brand-new ballpark. I'll never forget that day. And it's interesting that among those that were trying to help this process along, bringing the Blue Jays in, was a guy named Mario Cuomo, then the governor of New York State. Now his son, the governor, was one who helped to get all of this accomplished.
So you did the play-by-play of the very first game at what I guess it was Pilot Field. It was Coca-Cola Field, Pilot Field. Now it's Sahlen Field, Sahlen, which people don't know. It's a hot dog company, right?
Right. It's a hot dog company, great dogs, and Ted's is the one that features them throughout Western New York and in the Phoenix area.
This is great knowledge. Now, we have some play-by-play. Pete's our first guest that brings his own play-by-play cuts to the yard. You know, I like when the girls bring the milkshakes to my yard, but Pete brings play-by-play. And the very first hit, was it the very first hit or very first home run up at Pilot Field? Tom Prince, is that who it was?
Tom Prince hit the home run for the only run in the opening game.
We have tape. Let's go to the play-by-play back in 1988, right, Pete?
Right.
Let's go to the tape.
2-0 pitch, ripped deep to left field. Standing up back there is Walters. This ball is gone.
Listen to the crowd.
Wow. Tom Prince down the history books. He rips his first of the year. The Bisons are out in front 1-0.
1-0. Back in the day when you dropped nada, before there were ESPN Sports Center catchphrases, Pete Weber was dropping 1-0 on the folks in Buffalo with the Bison and Tom Prince. Remember Tom Prince, huh?
Vaguely remember.
He played in the Bigs, right? Didn't he play for the Pirates?
Yes, he did.
Well, yeah, they were a Pirates affiliate.
Yes,
back then.
absolutely.
Yeah.
We remember Tom Prince, those of us who are older.
Are some of us older here? I'm sorry.
So you helped bring the Bison to Buffalo, and a lot of people nationally are like, Buffalo. Buffalo had the Braves with Dr. Jack Ramsey and Bob McAdoo.
Yes.
Obviously, the Bills came in 1960 in the AFL, and then obviously became the Buffalo when the merger happened. The Bills have been a great franchise in this league, and we know the fans in Buffalo, Harry. That's one thing you can say. They've been long-suffering, the 4 Super Bowls. Buffalo fans are blue-collar, hardcore fans, man.
I will never forget, and I was on the Bills broadcast teams for those Super Bowls, coming back to town after Super Bowl 25. The police and helicopter escorts downtown. And as most will recall, Scott Norwood with a never should have come down to it, 47-yard field goal attempt to win the game. It went, as everybody in Western New York says, wide right. We got to the stage in front of City Hall, and the fans were calling for Scott Norwood to come up. He was standing behind me on the gathering. And he said, do they want to lynch me? I said, no, Scott, I think they really love you. He came up, and there was a love-a-thon that came out of all of that.
Yeah, because, he was considered the villain of that game, and it wasn't like a chip shot.
No. Not on grass. Not on grass.
And the worst part about the Scott Norwood miss for the Bills back then,
that was at the old
Tampa
Stadium.
That was the first Super Bowl. If he makes it and wins it, the whole they've lost 4 in a row thing would never ever even be mentioned, right?
Correct. Absolutely correct. And here's Scott Norwood, who, when the club got good, he was their leading scorer beginning in 1988 when they got him to the first of their AFC championship games against the Bengals. And he was just Mr. Consistency. And I'll never forget, after that game in the old sombrero, he stood in front of his locker and he answered questions for Lord knows how long and didn't dodge a one.
The great Pete Weber, Buffalo legend, and now, of course, Nashville legend. And, when you're thinking, Pete, back in the day with the Sabres when they came in and back in 1970 as well, and obviously we're a great franchise with the French Connection line and the old Aud, where I was happy to be there in the 70s watching those Flyers and Buffalo Bill team, Jerry King Kong, Korab, and some of the great players back in that era. And then you go to Nashville in 1998. Obviously you did hockey play-by-play, so tell me how the transition from going to Buffalo to Nashville and having been there from the very beginning of the Nashville Predators.
That's been very special for me, to be certain. And I had worked previously in what the NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman now refers to as a non-traditional market. I worked with Bob Miller for 3 seasons with the Los Angeles Kings. And that was when we had to go to every rubber chicken dinner and rubber pancake breakfast to try and sell the LA Kings. I mean, Jack Kent Cooke fought a battle with Dan Reeves, the owner of the Los Angeles Rams, to get that franchise. And he said, I want this franchise here in Southern California because there are 350,000 ex-Canadians who live here. I didn't know they moved here, Peter, because they hated hockey. But that was something that we had to battle a little bit. But I was prepared to teach, and we did that very well here. We had in Nashville, they had minor league hockey, the old Dixie Flyers going back to the 60s. And so there was a little bit of something on which to build. And thankfully, we did have that.
And it's got to be fun to be the first voice of an expansion team and continue to be there, decades later, man. So what's the vibe in Nashville? Obviously a good club, and now we're going to have the reboot of hockey. We got baseball going on this weekend. We have MLS, and we're going to have football soon, hopefully, at least training camp, and the NBA is down in the bubble. So what's the mood like in Nashville? Because I asked you earlier today, will you be involved in the broadcast when the Predators are involved in the reboot of the National Hockey League, where they start off right away without the rest of the teams that they canceled out? They start off with playoff hockey.
Right. Get right to it. So the teams leave Sunday to go to their bubbles. The Western Conference 12 heading to Edmonton, the Eastern Conference 12 to Toronto. And by the way, I have already asked my friends on the Hurricanes if they have listed David Ayres, the emergency goaltender, to come in and join them in Toronto just in case they need a Zamboni driver who can possibly win a game for them. No confirmation on that yet. But the Predators have one more practice here. That's tomorrow. And then after they clean out the downstairs area, which has been quarantined, we have a studio being built across from the visitors' dressing room downstairs at Bridgestone Arena. Former Flyer Hal Gill and I will have the radio broadcast.
Wow, Hal Gill is on the broadcast. Former Flyer great Hal Gill's on the broadcast team?
Yes. We had to get somebody tall. And he certainly fills the spot in that regard. He's just an inch shorter than Zdeno Chara. So here's a guy that has been a great partner for me. And prior to him, who one of my partners was for Philadelphia Flyer fans? Terrence Arthur Crisp.
Terry, the great Terry Crisp, Calgary Flames. Yes. I mean, one of the great guys, too. Talk about gingers. He was a ginger before gingers were cool. back in the day.
We've researched this. We've looked at old hockey cards. He had the first afro in the history of Philadelphia sports. He beat Dr. J by 3 years coming to town.
Wow.
You don't remember Terry Crisp?
Oh, of
we
course
call
I
him
do.
Crispy. Great player, great character. And then he coached the Calgary Flames, right?
Is he number 15, I want
Yes.
to say, with the Flyers?
Well, that's great
Number
knowledge.
15.
Harry.
Come on, man.
How about Harry Mays? Everybody thinks Harry Mays is just a guy who plays golf and drinks a lot of vodka.
Exactly.
This man knows his sports. Pete Weber, he is Harry Mays, man, and I'm proud to have him by my side here.
Harry, as Norm Crosby would say, you deserve, for that reference, a standing ovulation.
Well, Pete, in your time in Buffalo, I think this was pre-Bills Mafia, but I'm sure you're aware of the Bills
Absolutely,
Mafia.
yes.
I mean, have you ever had any dealings with them?
Oh, yeah. As a matter of fact, the Bills were down here playing last year, and roughly 500 of them came to the Nashville Bills Backers Special Bar. And I don't know. I mean, obviously it's tough for various businesses during the pandemic, but I wouldn't be surprised if that weekend of Bills Mafia people being here in Nashville might carry them over this entire season.
Now, our mutual friend, the great Beth Faber from Buffalo, who's up there and has done a great job. ESPN producer, still produces their NBA and their football stuff. Actually, her daughter is my goddaughter, so she's family to me. We were talking with her earlier today about what's going on up in Buffalo before we get back to hockey. And she said that even the Anchor Bar, Governor Cuomo, was not allowing, he doesn't consider wings a meal because they've been trying to scam this whole thing about you have to have food in a bar and the chips, and they call it Cuomo chips. Now the governor is saying that even wings are not considered food. So how will the Buffalo Blue Jays survive in Buffalo playing their 28 home games without being able to go to the Anchor Bar and get some wings, the birthplace of wings?
They should be able to go to the Anchor Bar and our Charlie the Butcher's and pick up beef on Weck sandwiches. That will suffice as food. If anybody has ever had one of those absolute delicacies, and I don't care what they've said about M&Ms melting in your mouth, not in your hands, that is what both wings and beef on Weck will do for you.
See, Harry, you're not getting this knowledge anywhere. Where else are you getting this Buffalo knowledge?
Not at all.
And Nashville knowledge combined. So Nashville's certainly a different place, and it's in the South, and you're right about the Predators. I mean, this is a good franchise.
Good team.
People talk about, hey, is hockey going to work in the South? Atlanta's failed twice. Miami, they got a good team, but they're good and bad. The Florida Panthers, and so you look at Nashville, and you say, how's hockey going to survive in the South? But it's surviving down there. People love hockey, don't they?
Yeah, they've made the atmosphere in the building as close as they could to an SEC football game. And I think that was a very good approach that they took from the very outset. And the fans, it's been sold out 3 straight years. And they were eating up online coverage of practices and scrimmages this last week for Bridgestone Arena. They can't wait for the real play where everything begins to count again on the 2nd of August when the Predators take on the Arizona Coyotes.
How about that, Harry? He's right. So you will be in Bridgestone Arena doing it on a monitor, right? Up from the Canadian 2 hub cities.
Well, they'll be in Edmonton.
They'll be in Edmonton, but Pete Weber will be down at the Bridgestone Arena in Nashville calling the play with the great Hal Gill, not Johnny Gill. We played some Johnny Gill earlier.
Well, and here's the thing. If we were going to do it old style, and I don't mean Heilemann old style, but if we're going to do it old style, they might give us 15-inch Philco monitors. But no. We've got 60-inch monitors to call in true color.
And is it in? Will there be HBO available later? And do you have air conditioning in the rooms in the hotel that you're staying? Well, actually, you live down in Nashville. So I'm just kidding. I love Nashville. Harry Mays is in Nashville. We got our buddy Nick Kales down there in Nashville.
Yeah. Well, let's do a road trip for your show.
We got to come to Nashville.
Here.
I love Nashville.
I would love to. I've still never been, and I understand that there's some amazing caverns right outside of Nashville, right?
Yes, there are. As a matter of fact, one where we go and take in bluegrass music. You can walk in the parking lot. It's 99 degrees. You walk about 10 feet inside the cavern, and you need a parka.
Now, is that the one where they have zip lines through the caverns?
They have zip lines in some, but not this one musical setup, no.
Come on, Robin. That's what you want to go to the caverns in Nashville?
Where else can you go zip-lining inside caverns?
You can go to Crystal Cave up here in Pennsylvania.
Kutztown.
They don't have
Kutztown.
Yeah.
Nobody has zip lines.
Kutztown.
Where Andre Reed really got his career launched.
That is exactly right.
That's why I love Pete Weber. That's
yes.
why I had to have Pete Weber back on the show. There's nobody who knows more about sports, Buffalo Bison, Nashville Predator.
Geographic references.
Geographic caves. This guy is one of my all-time. I idolize.
He's
Pete
like
Edwards.
a sports spelunker.
He is a sports spelunker. Now, are you what's the two different names of the stalactites or stalagmites?
Come from the top.
Guy?
Stalagmites come from the bottom.
Exactly. Are you a stalactite or a stalagmite guy, Pete?
I'm definitely a stalactite because I'm always falling down.
Not the great movie Falling Down.
Oh.
One of the all-time great
Michael
psycho
Douglas.
movies with Michael Douglas, filmed on the Venice Pier, the very ending where he falls off into the Santa Monica Bay.
Yeah.
As you well remember, Pete.
Oh, very well. I've fallen off there many times before.
The best part is Pete is not drinking at home in Nashville. We're drinking here in the Wine Cellar Studio in Philly, which we do every week, Pete, in the final hour of our show. But your knowledge is phenomenal, man. So what's the feeling on the Predators going into this reboot and the playoffs in hockey? Because it's wide open. I know the Flyers have Carter Hart, their young goalie. They're saying he's going to be able to play. What's your feeling on the reboot of hockey as we see that pretty soon?
Well, I tell you, the one reboot I think is going to be intriguing to watch. My buddy John Tortorella, again from my Buffalo days, he has everybody healthy now in Columbus. So all I can say, Maple Leafs fans, be on the lookout, because that's going to be a heck of a matchup. And Tort's already established himself with the upset of the Tampa Bay Lightning a season ago. Here with the Predators, they have been a roller coaster season for them. When the pause button was hit on March the 12th, they had won 6 of their previous 9 games. They had made a coaching change just after the turn of the year. So here you had the brand new coach coming in, his first day on the job. He had just reported for a press conference, and he's coaching a game that night. Then all of a sudden he turns around the defensive zone coverage for the team, and I think the club is on an uptick now. But the trouble is, we say, it's a horrible cliche, but when you come to the postseason, it's truly a different season. Well, that's never been more true than now after, let's say, roughly 10 weeks away from competition. But the good thing about this playoff, virtually everybody is going to be healthy again.
Yep.
And that's what I want to – rarely can you say that going into the Stanley Cup playoff period.
Well, the interesting thing, and, that's what I love Pete Weber. I mean, obviously I have a great affection for Pete. I mean, this guy knows his stuff. I know a lot of people call us boomers and stuff. I call it incredible knowledge, Harry.
Exactly.
And when you talk about hockey, we can all agree, no matter whether you're baseball, football, hockey, basketball, no matter what the sport is, there is nothing better than the Stanley Cup playoffs, is there?
No, it's the greatest.
Yeah. I absolutely believe it. And I tell you, when the Stanley Cup final was here in Nashville in 2017, and at the same time as the Country Music Association Festival, the streets in downtown Nashville, and here we are again, we're going to talk about boomers. It's old enough. It brought me back to the days of Woodstock in 1969. There wasn't as much nudity, but otherwise it was pretty much like Woodstock.
Yeah, we got to bring nudity back. I don't understand these people. They're just and I'm a guy, I'm not a nudist. But
you kind of are.
No, I mean, if I'm going to a place where people take their clothes off,
you're
pretty close.
No, I'm not taking my clothes off where you're not allowed to. But if I'm on a nude beach, I'm the first guy to just strip down.
No hesitation.
I have no hesitation.
You're the only
And
nudist
besides, Nashville
I know.
gets so darn hot.
Yeah, it's hot too. I mean, come on.
Jesus.
Come on, Harry. That's how God made us. We were made with no clothes. Clothes
Birthday
are just
suits.
Birthday suits. That's why we call them birthday suits, Harry. No, we got to come down there. We got to do a remote in Nashville.
I'd love to.
Our buddy Nick Kale's out there. He was bragging about his golf yesterday on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I said, we ripped him because the guy who drove across the golf course. I don't know where that was.
Fan.
And he's an Alabama fan. Listen, my son was born in Alabama, my oldest son. My son is a redneck, Alabama-born Crimson Tide fan. He named his boat the Crimson Tide, Harry.
Pete might know Nick because Nick does work for the Predators, like the in-arena stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I know Nick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
What are your thoughts on Nick Kale while we have you with us, Nick?
Feel free to rip.
You have to worry about him a little bit. because he spends so much time on the golf course, I think.
He and Harry infected him. Yeah. Harry's got all of his buddies infected on golf now, and they can't focus on the task at hand. That's why I don't go out anymore, even though I got a beautiful loudmouth bag right here with my own name monogrammed in it. Harry Mays is obsessed with golf. He's watching these stinking leaderboards with guys no one's ever heard of playing down in Minneapolis in the 3M tournament where Dustin Johnson had to put duct tape around his face to get the hell out of there quietly after he withdrew after round one.
Yeah, that was because his father-in-law-to-be probably told him to do that.
Exactly right. His father-in-law,
the great Wayne Gretzky.
The great Wayne Gretzky. It always comes back to hockey, doesn't it, Harry?
Yes.
Pete, it's great.
And Harry, I got a challenge for you.
Okay. It's a challenge.
The last round of golf I played was the year then Pilot Field opened in 1988. And I have been a much better person since that point in time. And I think society has been better served by my temper being totally sublimated after that very incredible decision I had to make. So when we moved here in 98, Claudia gave my golf clubs to a police detective in Buffalo who now is out in Las Vegas. Maybe we should track those down.
Absolutely. Now, they also now, you didn't have a Tommy Armour Persimmon driver like I do, though. I mean, I still have my original Tommy Armour Persimmon, and when you say he hit it on the screws, you really hit it on the screws back then, man.
I had X31s, Harry.
Okay. Or the Orlamar Tri-Metal.
The Orlamar Tri-Metal iron. I'm telling you right now, you got to rescue yourself out of a shot where you're normally going to use a 5-wood, Harry. You whip out that Orlamar Tri-Metal, it's got the 2 cleats underneath it. You're going to come out of that real thick Bermuda grass, bent grass, any grass you're talking about, Harry. Even the kind of grass that a lot of people we know smoke.
Aton
Sanders smokes. Pete, this has been a lot of fun, brother. You are absolutely a Hall of Fame great, and I'm so happy we got a chance to get back together again. Well, hopefully we'll talk you down. Well, we got to make a road trip to Nashville.
I agree.
I need to get back to Nashville, man. I haven't been there in a while.
Well, come here when the Bills Mafia comes back to town. We'll really show you a good time.
Will the Bills Mafia now turn its attention before football starts to your Buffalo-Toronto Blue Jays?
I think they will. From the calls I've gotten today, I have a feeling there are some tables, some card tables, and some big conference tables. They're in a whole lot of trouble.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, sir.
Bills Mafia becomes Blue Jays Mafia, Harry. Or someone called me today and said they should be the Buffalo BJs, Harry. When we talk about new names, I mean, why not Buffalo BJs? Seriously. I mean, this is the modern day.
What would that logo look like?
And honestly, who wouldn't be on board with that?
Columbus Blue Jackets at first.
Right.
Really?
Really?
Yes. They had a CBJ on their jerseys.
CBJ. See, this is the kind of next-level knowledge. Forget about how Aton Shanner's next-level show.
Yeah, forget about that.
This isn't the next level. This is all the way up to the parking deck.
Level.
This is all the way out to the parking deck when you go outside and you have to be on the outside of it.
Right.
And you're all the way at the top of the parking.
You're on the top of the parking garage.
And you're outside in the heat and humidity.
I mean, honestly, every young guy wants to be able to say, I'm all in on the Blue Jays. I mean, right?
Exactly. Especially the Bills Mafia. I mean, there's absolutely zero concern about harm to your personal body. No. Has ever been a greater group than the Bills Mafia, Pete?
No, I don't think so. And when you talk about harm to your body, your buddy Al Morganti, you got to ask him about the night of the old odd in Buffalo where the Zamboni driver darn near ran him over.
Al Morganti?
Yeah.
Yes, Al was almost run over by the Zamboni, Bobby the Zamboni driver, in the corner when he was doing a stand-up for, I think it was Sports Channel America at that point in time.
Wow.
But thankfully, Bobby missed. Al is still with us.
And I was there. I remember being there that night in 1974 when the Flyers won their Stanley Cup in the Aud in Buffalo. And I got to ride back with the Flyers franchise organization on the team plane with the Stanley Cup strapped safely in the middle seat next to my seat as I flew back on the Flyer plane with their second Stanley Cup. The last Stanley Cup they won actually was 75. And then they went for the 75. Hat trick in 76 and did not do it. I love the Aud. I love the tunnel system. People who didn't live through that era, I feel sorry for them. You talk about the great old buildings, the Aud in Buffalo, one of my favorite places of all time.
Mine too. I met my wife Claudia at the Aud.
I did not know that, Harry. Did you ever meet your future wife at a hockey game in the hall in the
No.
concourse, buying your $72 beer when you're standing in line for a Bud Light Lime?
No, I did not.
See, that's why
I
you're
don't
not
drink
old school.
Bud Light Lime at hockey games. That's a summer baseball thing.
Let's put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen. One of the all-time great broadcasters, a true Hall of Famer, Pete Weber, down there in Nashville without a tan. How do you live in Nashville without a tan?
I spend all my time in hockey rinks.
Exactly right. Hey, Pete, great to talk to you, man. Great to catch up again. Thank you so much, brother.
Thank you.
The great Pete
Thanks,
Weber.
Pete.
How great is that, Harry?
He's great.
Phenomenal. Oh, man.
I won't hold it against him that he knows Nick Cale.
No, I don't either. I ripped Nick Cale late last night.